Hey everyone, it's SpursRail96 here. Welcome to another Train Sim World news video. Today I thought I'd take a brief look at one of the new routes that's coming with Train Sim World 5. That's due to be released, well, the standard edition I think is under a week's time, isn't it? Right. And the deluxe edition sometime this week, I think in 2 days or something like that. So yeah, I thought I'd take a brief look at the West Coast Main Line South, which according to Dovetail is one of the most highly requested routes to arrive in Train Sim World. That's certainly up for debate. But anyway, let's take a look at what the route has to offer in terms of where it goes to or from, what you can actually do on it, and what trains you will be operating. So, for West Coast Main Line South in Train Sim World 4, is situated between London Euston and Milton Keynes Central. It does not go up to Birmingham New Street, unfortunately, which is really disappointing. So that means a route length of only 50 miles. That's not. It's okay, but I expected it to be a bit longer than that. But there you go. That's just my view. So the route connects some of Britain's major cities to London and has seen plenty of action from its initial opening through to today's services, with numerous amendments and redevelopments of stations along the way, as well as the ever-changing rolling stock that use it. Its existence is formed from a number of different railway lines that were built and then merged during the mid-19th century. 100 years later, between the 1950s and 1970s, the route was modernised and electrified to accommodate more advanced rolling stock, including some of the first tilting trains to operate in the United Kingdom. This technology eventually saw the introduction of Pendolino trains in 2002. At its southern end, London Euston adds yet another London terminus to Train Sim World. This important station has itself seen major changes throughout its history. Unlike other stations in the capital, sees the main line railway mix with the flow of London Underground and London Overground passengers. It plays host to over 30 million passengers a year. Beyond London, many stations within the Greater London area exist to accommodate the local and regional services heading out of London Euston, before heading further north to towns that were massively impacted by the arrival of the railways. On the horizon, landmarks like the BT Tower and Alexandra Road Estate will be seen, according to Dovetail. The Wembley area sees many of the different types of railway lines meet, all overlooked by the iconic Wembley Stadium to the north. Nearby Wembley Central and Stonebridge Park play host to London Underground and London Overground services, and Wembley Yard stables rolling stock ranging from long freight trains to Class 390 Pendolinos. Between Cheddington and Leighton Buzzard is the inconspicuous Mentmore Bridge, which infamously became the location of the Great Train Robbery in 1963. At the northern end of the in-game route is Milton Keynes Central, where passengers are introduced to one of Britain's post-war new towns that in real life features a rare American grid system of roads and a fresh contemporary take on the British suburban lifestyle. Let's take a look at the trains that's coming with this route. That's the whole point of the game, isn't it? So a fleet of trains, both new and familiar, is being included with the West Coast Main Line South, with deluxe edition players also being able to operate the sleek and modern Avanti West Coast Pendolino. I will discuss that shortly. New to Train Sim World is the Class 350 electric multiple unit, adding yet another member of the larger Desiro family of trains to the game. First introduced in 2005, these trains operate various services from London Euston, either beyond the map to locations such as Northampton and Birmingham, or to stations within the confines of the route, such as Tring or Milton Keynes Central. Though not enabled for third rail use, these units can be adapted to work via this method. On all West Coast mainline services, they are operated with overhead AC electric power. One really annoying thing about this multiple unit is you could probably tell from the shots that Dovetail provided the Class 350, they don't really want to show many shots of a side-on view of the Class 350, and that is because it is unbranded. These units are operated by the London North Western Railway, and apparently, during construction of this route, and I imagine a multiple unit as well, there was a licensing agreement in place between Dovetail Games and the London North Western Railway. For some bizarre reason, that licensing agreement is now no longer in place, which means that, rather embarrassingly for Dovetail, their, I suppose, main route, the star of the show, the West Coast Main Line South, um, with the exception of the Class 390 Pendolino, the new toy of this route, the Class 350, is unbranded and unlicensed. And let me tell you, that is going to put people off. You know, it might not be Dovetail's fault, but it has to damage their sales. Of people just purchasing the game. You know, purely to experience the West Coast Main Line South. They want to experience in the most authentic way possible. And with the absence of the London North Western Railway, whatever the reason may be, is going to hurt Dovetail as well as London North Western Railway as a brand. I mean, if you look at the when Dovetail did the East Coast Main Line, heck, the London and North Western Railway, they went to town with Train Sim World. They really did a fantastic collaboration, on their social media channels, publicizing, how good of a brand that, the London and Northeastern Railway could be, and they had drivers coming in playing the game, and it was good fun. It was a great marketing campaign. So the fact that Northwestern Railway pulled the plug at the last minute, just a week or two before Train Sim World 5 is due to be released, is extremely disappointing. Hopefully, Dovetail can figure out a deal, not before launch because that's too late now, but maybe in the next few months before the end of the year. Hopefully a licensing agreement can once again be put in place, and we can have the London and North Western Railway branding back not only on the trains but the station signage, which will also take a hit. So that is one big issue I have with the West Coast Main Line South, is the fact that the new toy, the Class 350, is going to be unbranded. That is not a good look for Dovetail or the London North Western Railway. But anyway, continuing looking at shiny new things, we will now take a look at the workhorse, the main, I suppose, when you think of West Coast Main Line South, what do you think of? The Pendolino, of course. The Avanti West Coast Class 390 Pendolino electric multiple unit is debuting in Train Sim World for the first time. These run regional high-speed services throughout the West Coast Main Line, and is the much requested sleek tilting marvel to debut in Train Sim World. Born from the initiative tilting technology of groundbreaking test trains, these modern units have long been seen powering their way out of London and down to Britain's key towns and cities, such as in the Midlands, the north of England, and of course all the way to Scotland. Avanti West Coast is a new operator in Train Sim World, and are the current custodians of these iconic trains, which, this is where the annoying thing comes in, are available for players of the deluxe or special editions. That is, how can I put this? Probably one of the most scummy business practices I've seen from Dovetail so far with Train Sim World. The fact that you put the Class 390 Pendolino, which is a crucial component of the West Coast Main Line. It is, like I said, the main workhorse and has been for over 20 odd years. The fact you put it behind an additional paywall is incredibly I'm trying not to swear here. It's incredibly irritating, let's put it that way. It should have been included with the route standard. So the fact it's behind a paywall is, I presume from a business perspective, makes perfect sense. But the common sense person in the room would say, yeah, that's not right. And it isn't. I am disgusted with what Dovetail have done there. I like the Pendolino. I make no mistake, but it shouldn't be behind an additional paywall. It's as simple as that. Either way, the Pendolino in Train Sim World will have additional services which will bulk out the platforms of London Euston amongst the Class 350s and give players a totally different experience, passing through many of the intermediate stations at high speed. The trains will come in both 9 and 11 car formations and will also make use of the digital display enhancements that's being also debuted in Train Sim World 5. Like the Class 350, both the speed and brake pressure are measured using the manual gauges. The Class 390 also comes equipped with the tilt authorization and speed supervision, which is a system unique to the West Coast Main Line. The system monitors the speed of tilting trains and allows them to travel slightly faster than non-tilting trains on certain sections of the track. Accompanying these are the EPS boards as well. They show speeds that apply only to to trains with tilting enabled. Now, the next train is a familiar face, and don't worry, it is actually being included with the route as standard. This is the Class 377-2 units operated by Southern. Unlike their contemporaries found on previous routes, such as the Brighton Main Line or East Coastway, these utilise overhead AC electric for power and can be switched to the third rail for use on other areas of the national network. And I think the final one that's included with this route is a familiar face, which is getting beyond the joke now. The Class 66 diesel locomotive for the freight action, of course. For a change of traction, something bigger and noisier, the Class 66 is included. Though this locomotive has not changed much beyond improvements made from previous train sim world add-ons, that's an understatement, it does come with a new variation of livery, Deutsche Bahn Cargo, adding a red flavour to the train's palette on what is otherwise dominated by the green shades of electric multiple units. It will add additional freight services for PC and 9th generation console players. I swear this livery is pretty much identical to Great Western Express, right? It had the Deutsche Bahn Schenker livery, so all it was is taking away the words Schenker and maybe making the Deutsche Bahn logo bigger. Is that really the only difference, Dovetail? I mean, I think you should add a new British freight locomotive. I mean, we've had the Class 66 now for nearly 10 years. It's about time we get a new freight locomotive, so I'm very disappointed. I like the 66, don't get me wrong, but it's getting beyond the joke. It's being used way too much, and we need a bit of variation now on the UK freight side. Not as far as wagons and tankers and all that kind of stuff. Locomotives. We need a new freight locomotive. I don't care if it's diesel. I don't care if it's electric. We need something new, and it's as simple as that. The Deutsche Bahn Class 66 is included in the Train Sim World 5's West Coast Mainline route for all players. And another one that I've actually forgotten to mention is the London Underground 1972 Mark II tube stock. It is included with this route, allowing players to play along a short stretch of the London Underground Bakerloo line, a 7-mile stretch of the above ground line, including stations at Queen's Park and Harrow and Wealdstone. Thankfully, players that don't have the London Underground Bakerloo line will be able to play the a little short stretch of the Bakerloo line on the West Coast Main Line south, which obviously offers a very different style and driving on the southern or the London area of this route, as well as it adds more in-game traffic in what is apparently going to be one of the busiest routes in Train Sim World history. What is good is that the 1972 Mark II tube stock on the West Coast Main Line will have updated lighting and rain effects for use on this route. So, let's now take a look at the gameplay side of things, timetables, layers, etc. With so many trains operating many different styles of services and stopping patterns, a robust timetable has been created, apparently, reflecting the amount of traffic that this busy stretch of the West Coast Main Line receives. This has been one of the more complex areas for Dovetail to develop, with so many trains interacting with one another from a signalling and pathing point of view. For types of services available to operate include limited Class 350 services to the likes of Crewe, Rugby, Birmingham New Street and Northampton, all ending in the game at Milton Keynes Central. All stop Class 350 services to Bletchley, Tring and Milton Keynes Central, and empty stock movements between Bletchley sidings and either Tring, Bletchley or London Euston, as well as between Camden sidings and London Euston. There will be Class 377-2 services between Watford Junction and Wembley Central, London Underground Bakerloo line services between Harrow and Wealdstone and Queen's Park, as well as some empty stock moves at Stonebridge Park. Class 66 freight services, of course, that's for the 9th generation consoles and the PC. These arrive from off the map using the Wealdstone relief lines and are then playable until they reach Milton Keynes Central. These are all formed of intermodal trains. As far as additional service layers are concerned, the Avanti West Coast Class 390 Pendolino services to the likes of Glasgow Central, Manchester Piccadilly, Liverpool Lime Street, and Birmingham New Street, all ending in the game at Milton Keynes Central. There will also be empty stock movements between Wembley sidings and London Euston. Class 710 London Overground services for players that own the London Overground Suffragette Line or the Goblin Line add-on along the entire length of the Lioness Line, or the North London, the Watford DC line it used to be called, from London Euston to Watford Junction, and there will also be empty stock movements between Willesden Yard and London Euston and Watford Junction. Pendolino services that do not stop at Milton Keynes Central will be included in the timetable as AI services. Another little treat in store as far as timetables go. Players that only recently remastered Glasgow Cathcart Circle Line and the Class 380 electric multiple unit, which contains a new timetable, will see a layered in Class 350 EMUs at Glasgow Central to represent a time that these trains were leased for use there. The Avanti West Coast Class 390 Pendolino will also appear for players that only Deluxe or Special Edition, or the Loco add-on that will release on the launch day. That is interesting. I didn't realise it was launching separately as a Loco add-on straight out of the box. But anyway, it should have been included. It should be included with the route as standard, like I've said many times over now. These Glasgow Cathcart Circle Line layers for the Class 380 timetable are all AI services. As far as scenarios, there will be 8 scenarios to play on the West Coast Main Line. 5 of these involve the Class 350, and 3 available to the Avanti West Coast Class 390 Pendolino. And yeah, there will also be a series of collectibles to go and hunt down, such as defibrillators, posters, delivery bots that seem to have lost their way apparently, and can sometimes be seen roaming on the streets in Milton Keynes in real life. They may have snuck onto the station platforms in Train Sim World for players to find. Players might also find some Dovetail FC football scarves to pick up that have been discarded by Wembley goers. Very good. As far as mastery challenges go, there is the first tier has a reward of decals for use in the livery designer, and tier 2, which is a scenery tile, is some cows, I think, at Milton Keynes, but not in the form you might expect, apparently. And yeah, there you are. That pretty much concludes this news video. There are a few plus points. I do like the Class 390 Pendolino and the 350 being included. Added to the fact as well, you can operate the entirety of the Watford DC line. That is if you have the London Overground Goblin line, of course. And from a timetable perspective, it looks, on paper, pretty good. What's not so good is that the route is only going as far as Milton Keynes and should be way, way longer. It should at least go to Birmingham in my view, as well as maybe having a couple of branch lines here and there. And secondly, second is that the London North Western Railway branding is absent. That's a big turn off for me, but there you are. What could you do? And thirdly, the Class 390 Pendolino, as much as I like it and really can't wait to take a look at it, it's behind an additional paywall, and that's just simply not acceptable and not fair. But there you are. That's my view on the West Coast Main Line South coming very soon to Train Sim World. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, then feel free to hit the thumbs up button below. And if you are watching for the first time, then I'd appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.